I never got any bad now. It was amazing. I mean, people liked the character, liked it, and I was always expecting to get.
You might think you know everything about the sharp-tongued characters of The Jeffersons, a television classic showing a successful black businessman moving up in the world. But there's more to the story than what played out on screen. While the show brought laughter and unforgettable catchphrases, the real drama often unfolded when the cameras weren't rolling. Get ready to uncover the hidden truths that even the biggest fans never saw coming. Sherman Hemsley.
You have to excuse my maid. Every time she opens her mouth, her brain takes a coffee break.
Sherman Hemsley, the unforgettable face behind George Jefferson. On screen, George was loud, opinionated, and always stirring up drama. But the real Sherman, he couldn't have been more different. Off camera, he was reserved, soft-spoken, and intensely private. In fact, many of his fellow cast members admitted they barely got to know him, even after years of working together. He kept to himself, creating a quiet bubble of solitude, even on the busiest sets. Sherman was born in Philadelphia and had anything but a smooth start in life. He left high school early, joined the Air Force, and later worked long hours sorting mail at the post office. But at night, he chased a different dream, the stage. His passion for acting led him to the Negro Ensemble Company, a theater group dedicated to uplifting black performers. That experience paved the way to Broadway, where he landed a role in the musical Pearlie. His performance caught the attention of legendary TV producer Norman Lear, who knew immediately that Sherman was the perfect fit for George Jefferson. But Sherman wasn't ready to leave the stage just yet. Incredibly, Lear held the role open for an entire year until Sherman wrapped up his commitments and moved to Los Angeles. Once he stepped into the role, he became a household name. But portraying George wasn't always easy. The character's brash attitude was miles away from Sherman's own gentle nature. He once admitted that playing such a fiery personality felt like wearing a heavy costume that didn't quite fit. Despite his quiet demeanor, Sherman formed a strong bond with his co-star, Isabel Sanford, who played Louise. She jokingly nicknamed him Neck, and it stuck a lighthearted reminder of their off-screen friendship. In fact, the iconic nickname Wheezy was born when Sherman once slipped and used it on set, and the writers decided to keep it in the script. But Sherman had another side fans rarely saw. Beyond the flashy suits and booming voice of George, he was a deeply spiritual man with a love for music. He even recorded and released his own R&B album. Still, his most guarded truth was about his personal life. Sherman never married or had children and stayed out of the public eye as much as possible. Though it was widely known within Hollywood circles that he was gay, he never publicly addressed it, choosing to live quietly in a time when being open came with great risk. In his final years, Sherman stepped away from the spotlight entirely, preferring a peaceful life away from Hollywood's chaos. When he passed away in 2012, his deeply private nature followed him even in death. A legal dispute over his estate erupted. Some individuals claimed to be long-lost relatives, challenging the inheritance he left to a close friend. It was a messy and unfortunate chapter that highlighted just how guarded Sherman's personal world truly was. Still, for millions of fans, he'll always be remembered as the man who made George Jefferson unforgettable, even if few truly knew the man behind the character. Isabel Sanford.
Why don't we have a nice hot cup of coffee first?
That's a good idea, Miss Jefferson. But coffee jangles my nerves.
The beloved actress who played the strong, loving, and endlessly patient Louise Jefferson, or as fans know her best, Wheezy. While her character was often the voice of reason to George's wild behavior, Isabel's real-life journey to fame was just as powerful and perhaps even more surprising than many realize. Born in New York City, Isabel always had dreams of performing, but her mother strongly discouraged her from becoming an actress. She believed it wasn't a respectable path and hoped her daughter would choose something more stable. But Isabel didn't let that stop her. Quietly, she started performing in local venues and even graced the stage of the legendary Apollo Theater. Like many struggling artists, she balanced her passion with practicality, working as a key punch operator by day while chasing roles at night. She became part of community theater groups, slowly building her craft. Her persistence eventually paid off. She landed her first role on Broadway in a play called The Amen Corner, and soon after got a part in the groundbreaking film Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Though it was a small role, it made an impact. The film tackled racial issues head on, something rare in that era, and her performance caught the right attention. At age 58, when many actors are stepping back, Isabel's biggest role came calling: Louise Jefferson. She embraced the role with warmth, grace, and quiet strength, a perfect match to George's fiery personality. Louise wasn't just a wife or a sidekick, she was the emotional anchor of the show. And Isabel's performance didn't just win hearts, it made history. She became the first Black woman to win an Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a comedy series, proving that Black actresses could lead a show and do it with excellence. Sherman Hemsley, her TV husband, often called her the Queen, a title the rest of the cast proudly supported. Despite being a scripted sitcom, there were moments of genuine emotion and spontaneity. In one classic scene, when George was being especially ridiculous, Isabel blurted out a perfectly timed "please," a line that wasn't even in the script. The audience erupted, and the moment became iconic. After The Jeffersons wrapped, Isabel didn't slow down. She appeared in hit shows like Living Single and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, often alongside Sherman Hemsley. The two continued their on-screen chemistry in commercials and reunions, and their friendship off-screen was just as genuine. Marla Gibbs, who played the unforgettable Florence, once said the Jeffersons cast truly felt like family, a rare thing in television. She remained close to Sherman all the way until his passing. Unlike many shows plagued by behind-the-scenes drama, The Jeffersons set was mostly full of laughter, support, and real camaraderie. When Isabel Sanford passed away in 2004, at the age of 86, she left behind not only decades of iconic work, but a legacy of resilience and inspiration. Her story is proof that it's never too late to make your dreams come true, no matter what obstacles stand in your way. Florence Johnston.
Hey! What are you doing with that apple?
Let's turn to the unforgettable sharp-tongued maid who never missed a chance to put George Jefferson in his place. That role was brought to life by the incredibly talented Marla Gibbs, whose real-life story is every bit as compelling as her on-screen sass. Marla was born in Chicago and, like Isabel Sanford, didn't start out in show business. Before Hollywood ever called her name, she was living a very normal life, working as a reservations agent for United Airlines. Yes, before she was trading insults with George on national TV, she was helping customers book flights and troubleshoot travel problems. In fact, even after landing the role on The Jeffersons, she kept her job at United for 2 more years, just in case acting didn't work out. That decision says everything about her character. Grounded, practical, and never afraid of hard work. Her journey into acting began in local Black theater groups, where she slowly built her skills and gained experience. She started picking up small roles in films, gradually making her way onto bigger stages. When she joined The Jeffersons, her role as Florence was only supposed to be temporary, just a few episodes. But her sharp timing, bold comebacks, and undeniable chemistry with the rest of the cast made her an instant fan favorite. Viewers couldn't get enough of Florence's fearless attitude and hilarious put-downs, especially when she clashed with George. Thanks to the audience's love for her, the writers expanded her role and made her a permanent part of the series. Marla brought her own fire and energy to the character. Florence wasn't just comic relief. She was a strong, smart woman who could stand toe-to-toe with anyone. That strength came from Marla herself, who was much more than just an actress. Behind the scenes, she was also a singer and an entrepreneur. In the 1980s, while still working in television, she opened a jazz club in Los Angeles called Marla's Memory Lane Jazz and Supper Club. This wasn't just a side gig. She ran the club successfully for nearly 2 decades, providing a platform for jazz artists and a gathering place for the community. Marla even recorded and released several albums, showing the world that her talents stretched far beyond sitcoms. While people were watching her crack jokes on TV, she was managing a business, singing on stage, and building her legacy. That entrepreneurial spirit made her stand out. She was always more than just the role she played. After The Jeffersons ended, Marla was given her own spin-off show called Checking In, centered around Florence. Although it was short-lived, it was a sign of how much audiences loved her character. Soon after, she found even more success starring in the hit sitcom 227, where she not only played the lead, but also served as a producer. If that wasn't enough, she also performed the show's theme song, proving once again that her range as an artist was truly remarkable. Even after decades in the industry, Marla never stopped working. She continued acting in films and TV shows, making guest appearances, and staying active in the entertainment world. Her dedication and resilience earned her a well-deserved star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a symbol of her enduring impact on television and Black representation in the industry. What makes Marla Gibbs so remarkable is how much she accomplished while remaining true to herself. From taking calls at United Airlines to becoming a multi-talented star, her path wasn't handed to her. She built it step by step with determination and grit. She's proof that sometimes the side characters are the ones with the richest stories, both on and off the screen. Roxy and Franklin.
And I know what it must have looked like, but you made a big mistake.
Yeah, I married you.
Now let's shift focus from the sassy and sharp-tongued Florence to two neighbors who made television history, Helen and Tom Willis. Played by Roxy Roker and Franklin Cover, they were the first interracial couple shown regularly on a primetime sitcom, a bold move in the 1970s and one that sparked conversations across the country. Roxy Roker, who portrayed the elegant and soft-spoken Helen, had an impressive background long before stepping into the world of sitcoms. She was born in Miami but raised in Brooklyn and later attended Howard University, one of the most prestigious historically Black colleges in the United States. Much like other stars from The Jeffersons, she was part of the renowned Negro Ensemble Company, an influential theater group that helped launch the careers of many Black actors during a time when opportunities were scarce. But Roxy Roker also faced racism. A Black woman married to a white man, Tom Willis, was asked during casting whether she would be comfortable with her character having a white husband. Her response was to show them a photo of her own husband, who was white. Roxy wasn't just another TV actress. She was a trained and respected stage performer, even earning a Tony Award nomination for her work on Broadway. But what made her casting as Helen even more powerful was a truth from her personal life. Roxy herself was in an interracial marriage. Her husband, Cy Kravitz, was a white Jewish television producer, and together they had a son, the now famous musician Lenny Kravitz. When The Jeffersons' creator, Norman Lear, was developing the show, he was unsure how audiences would react to a mixed-race couple being portrayed as a normal, loving household on screen. It was a sensitive subject, especially during that era. But Roxy brought a photo of her own family, her white husband, and biracial child to show Norman that these kinds of families already existed. That one image did what no script could prove, that love doesn't follow rules, and it convinced Lear to move forward with the idea. It wasn't just casting. At that point, it was representation rooted in truth. The show didn't shy away from the topic either. George Jefferson, being his usual blunt self, would often joke or show his discomfort with Tom and Helen's relationship, even calling them zebras at one point. But that was part of the point. The Jeffersons didn't paint George as perfect. His prejudices were used to challenge the audience's own. And over time, as George's character softened, it sent a powerful message about growth, understanding, and the importance of acceptance. Franklin Cover, who played the thoughtful and mild-mannered Tom Willis, also came from a strong theater background. He wasn't flashy, but his calm presence perfectly balanced Roxy's gentle strength. Together, they brought authenticity to their roles, never playing into stereotypes or letting their characters become caricatures. They simply acted like any other married couple, navigating disagreements, raising their daughter, and loving each other. And that was revolutionary enough. After The Jeffersons, Roxy continued working in television, but she also became deeply involved in community advocacy, especially causes supporting children and education. She was even honored by the Los Angeles City Council for her dedication to youth programs and outreach. Sadly, Roxy passed away in 1995 after a battle with breast cancer. But she left behind a legacy, not just as a trailblazer on TV, but as a woman who stood for change in real life, too. Franklin Cover also stayed active in the industry, appearing in numerous television roles and films, including a part in the well-known movie Wall Street. He passed away in 2006, but his contributions to television history remain significant. Together, Roxy Roker and Franklin Cover did something quiet but revolutionary. They didn't need grand speeches or heavy-handed moments, just by portraying a loving interracial couple with warmth, humor, and dignity. They challenged decades of stereotypes and opened the door for future shows to follow. They reminded audiences that love, respect, and family don't have to look one way, and that's a message just as important today as it was back then. Lionel Jefferson.
Mom, Pop, look, could I get by without a hassle tonight? I was wrong about school and everything. I'm sorry, okay?
That's my boy.
His story came with a twist many fans forget. Two different actors portrayed him. Lionel's journey on screen began with Mike Evans, whose own path into television couldn't have been more serendipitous. Mike studied drama, but had little acting experience when a casting director working with Norman Lear literally recognized him while he was hitchhiking. That chance moment led him to land the role of Lionel on All in the Family, and later The Jeffersons. Norman Lear originally considered another actor, Cleveland Little, for the role, but he chose Mike instead, a decision that paid off. Mike brought a quiet confidence and grounded strength to Lionel, who was both Archie Bunker's black neighbor and the husband of Jenny Willis. Yet Mike had bigger aspirations than acting alone. He was drawn to writing. After the first season of The Jeffersons, he grew frustrated with his limited screen time. According to Good Times co-creator Jimmy Walker, Mike confronted Lear at a holiday party, demanding more lines or threatening to quit. That showdown, rather than a mutual parting of ways, was a key factor in his departure. Although Mike returned briefly later, the tension over his role played a major part in the switch. Mike didn't stop in front of the camera. Behind the scenes, he co-created Good Times, a show that would become a beloved staple in its own right. Eventually, he transitioned away from acting, becoming a successful commercial real estate investor. He passed away in 2006 after battling throat cancer. After Mike's exit, the mantle of Lionel fell to Damon Evans. Replacing a central character mid-series is always risky, and Damon's story is as fascinating as it is bold. He came from a musical background, excelling as a classical vocalist and earning a scholarship to an art school. By age 17, he had already founded his own opera company in Baltimore. Yet, he embraced television when the opportunity arose, taking on Lionel's role even though he'd never watched The Jeffersons and received minimal guidance on how to play the part. He simply stepped in and made it his own. Damon also appeared in the TV miniseries Roots: The Next Generation, but his heart remained in classical music. He eventually left television to pursue opera full-time, landing major roles in Porgy and Bess, and performing globally with prestigious orchestras like the London Symphony and Berlin Philharmonic. His career included a dramatic moment when, during one opera performance, he was physically attacked by a fellow singer, an act Damon believed was rooted in jealousy over his success. Though terrifying, this incident didn't end his career. Instead, he pressed forward and used the experience to fuel further artistic growth. Beyond his public achievements, Damon holds a deeply personal and powerful truth. He is an openly gay black man who lived through the era of the Stonewall riots, one of the pivotal moments in LGBTQ+ history. Navigating both racial and sexual identity in the entertainment world was far from easy, but his courage and authenticity made him a trailblazer of a different kind. And as for Lionel's partner on the show, Jenny Willis Jefferson, she was played by Berlinda Tolbert, whose character became a touchstone in the interracial family storylines that the Jeffersons handled so boldly. Jenny's presence and strength added a vital dimension to the show's exploration of love, identity, and social change. Berlinda Tolbert.
See, I'm looking for a guy named Lionel Jefferson. You know, you look like him. Well, I take that back. You got a much bigger head.
Let's now turn to the woman who brought warmth, intelligence, and quiet strength to the Jeffersons, Berlinda Tolbert, who played Jenny Willis Jefferson. Her role gave depth to one of TV's first interracial families, and her own career held some unexpected turns that most fans likely never heard about. Berlinda's journey into acting began in the early 1970s. Before she became a household name on The Jeffersons, she popped up in other popular sitcoms of the time, like Sanford and Son and That's My Mama. But here's a little-known fact. She also had a small role in Mean Streets, an early film directed by none other than Martin Scorsese. That's right, long before she was Jenny, Berlinda had already stepped onto the big screen in a gritty crime drama that would go on to be a classic. Her portrayal of Jenny spanned the full life of the Jeffersons, from being Lionel's steady girlfriend to becoming his wife, and eventually the mother of their child. Her character offered an important contrast to the louder personalities in the show, bringing heart and subtlety to the storyline of an interracial family navigating life, love, and culture in New York City. After The Jeffersons ended, Berlinda didn't step away from the screen. She landed roles in notable films like Harlem Nights and Goodfellas, and made guest appearances on hit series such as ER and 6 Feet Under. Also, Berlinda Tolbert recalled being asked how she felt about her character being biracial. Berlinda Tolbert has recalled that in one early episode, during rehearsal, Mike Evans and Sherman Hemsley ad-libbed a line in which Louise Wheezy Jefferson uses the N-word. The moment got a big reaction from cast and crew, and though Isabel Sanford, Wheezy, was worried, they kept it, and in front of a live audience, it got one of the longest laughs. But what many people may not realize is that Berlinda made a deeply personal choice later in life. She stepped back from acting, not for lack of roles, but to care for her aging parents. That quiet act of devotion speaks volumes about her real-life character. Away from the spotlight, she chose family first, a decision as meaningful as any role she ever played on screen. Paul Benedict.
Mom,
Hello, George.
I have eaten your bread and salt. I have drunk your water and wine. The death ye died I have watched. And the lives ye led.
And who could forget the quirky, overly polite neighbor with the thick British accent, Harry Bentley, always popping in uninvited and somehow always in the middle of George's frustrations. The man behind the character was Paul Benedict, and his real-life story is far more unexpected than his on-screen persona ever let on. Despite his convincing British accent and upper-crust demeanor, Paul Benedict was actually born and raised in the United States, in New Mexico, to be exact. Viewers for years believed he was from the UK, which just goes to show how deeply he committed to his craft. His portrayal of Bentley was so authentic that even industry insiders were often fooled. Before finding fame on The Jeffersons, Paul had already built an impressive resume in the theater world. He shared the stage with soon-to-be Hollywood legends like Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman, and Robert De Niro, long before they became household names. He was heavily involved in both Broadway productions and regional theater, earning respect as a serious stage actor. But behind the laughs, Paul was dealing with a medical condition that quietly shaped his life, acromegaly, a rare disorder caused by excess growth hormone. This condition led to his distinct facial features and physical appearance. Strangely enough, it was a doctor in the audience during one of his performances who noticed the signs and later reached out to him, encouraging him to get diagnosed. That moment may have saved his life. While his character on The Jeffersons was bumbling and socially awkward, those who knew Paul in real life described him as kind-hearted, humble, and soft-spoken, the total opposite of an attention-seeking performer. He carried himself without ego, even as his career continued to blossom in comedy films like A Mighty Wind and This Is Spinal Tap, and with memorable TV roles, including an appearance on Seinfeld. Paul Benedict passed away in 2008 due to a brain hemorrhage. He left behind a legacy not just as a skilled comedic actor, but as someone who turned personal adversity into a source of unique charm and strength. While the world laughed at Bentley's awkward charm, very few knew the remarkable story behind the man who played him. Mother Jefferson.
Is that a present too?
Oh, no, I bought this myself as a surprise for George.
Well, if you wear that, there won't be much left to surprise him.
Mother Jefferson, George's sharp-tongued, wise, no-nonsense mama, portrayed by the remarkable Zara Cully. Her life story is one of resilience, talent, and breaking barriers. Here's something many don't realize. Zara Cully was already 82 years old when she took on the role of Mother Jefferson on The Jeffersons. Yes, one of her most iconic roles came late in life. By then, she had spent over 50 years performing in theater, teaching, and public speaking. In Florida, she was often called the Dean of Drama for her dedication to training others and her mastery of elocution. Her reputation as a leading voice teacher and dramatic instructor preceded her TV fame. Zara was born into a time when the Jim Crow laws enforced brutal segregation. She lived through the overt racism, limitations, and indignities of that era. Those early struggles fueled her determination to carve a place for herself in the performing arts. At some point, in search of better opportunities and fewer barriers, she moved to Hollywood, a leap many in her generation would never dare to take. Zara first introduced Mother Jefferson on All in the Family, before reprising the role in The Jeffersons. She infused the character with wisdom, warmth, sharp wit, and moral backbone, a matriarch who could scold, comfort, and cut George right down to size, all in one moment. Her presence anchored the show. During her later years on the series, Zara's health began to decline. She fell ill with pneumonia and later battled lung cancer. In 1978, at age 86, she passed away. In a powerful and sensitive tribute, the writers chose to mirror her passing in the show they scripted, Mother Jefferson's death, allowing the characters and audiences alike to grieve. That blend of fiction and reality created a moving, authentic moment that many remember to this day. Looking back on The Jeffersons, the show gave us laughter, memorable catchphrases, and groundbreaking representation. But peeling back the layers reveals something deeper. Each actor behind those roles carried their own stories of loss, of strength, of hidden struggles, and of personal victories. From battling illness or prejudice to quietly caring for loved ones or navigating industry drama, their paths were complex in ways we seldom see. Yet they rose, they created, they inspired, and in doing so, they moved on up in more than just Hollywood. They left behind a legacy woven with both fame and unseen courage.